if you're moving on to something or trying something and it doesn't scare you a little bit, it's probably not big enough.
Welcome to the SGV Master Key, a show where you will hear personal stories of triumph over failures and how others successfully navigated the unique landscape that is the San Gabriel Valley. What makes us different? Well, just like you, we have chosen the San Gabriel Valley for our home or businesses or both. We believe it is the people and small businesses that make this community great, and we love to share their stories with you. We always encourage your questions and feedback, and you can find all of our contact information at sgvmasterkey.com. Here are the hosts for the show, Russell Mono and Scott Warmuth.
All right, welcome to another episode of the SGV Master Key. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for spending this time with us. And I made it. I ran to turn on the light switch.
Right.
And I made it.
You made it just in the nick of time.
Yes. Well, I always enjoy these podcasts, and this is going to be our second episode where we're going to review the previous episodes for you, give you a little snapshot and our take of memorable moments from those shows. So
yeah, it's fun to do, and it allows the listener to either be reminded of a show and maybe go back and listen again, or to learn about a show for the first time.
Yes. So if you've not checked out the episode where we go over 1 through 20, that's episode 41. But it is 2:00 on a Friday, and I have been going like 100%, I think like 4 to 10 p.m. for maybe 3 or 4 weeks now. Because it's like a transition period for me.
4 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an important transition for you and for your family.
Yes.
And it's a change that's a pretty dramatic change, because something you had committed your life to, you'll be phasing out of now.
Yes. Well, in the arena that I was doing it, so I think I'm taking my skill set and using it in a different arena.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you had been a trainer for a number of years, and that's what you're phasing out of now. And how long had you been training?
A little over 15 years.
You started at LA Fitness,
yes,
and then moved on to Matador,
yes,
which was a different format, different kind of feature. So it must be a real tender moment for you to leave something like that.
It is. As I finish up what will be or what has been the last session with clients, and realizing it's the end of years of interaction and conversation, going through various moments of each other's lives together, and how that is going to be no more. That reality really hit me today a lot, especially.
Because today is the day you did your final session.
Yeah.
Wow. Who was it with?
With Thomas.
Wow, with
the
Thomas.
star of our show.
Okay. Thomas. We've already talked about Thomas today, because we talked about some of his favorite shows.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, this is how you met Thomas, through training.
Yeah.
And just think of the number of people that you met and have kept as close friends throughout the years. That won't change. Some of those people will stay with you, but yeah, just something that you had just built your life around,
right,
is
going. You use the term personal trainer. I stopped using that many, many years ago, but it's, for ease of understanding, people know what that is. I always refer to myself as a strength coach, and I leave it at that. And if people assume what that means, I let them think what they think. And then if they ask, what's that? I always say, my job is to help them find the strength to overcome whatever difficulties they have, because it's actually that which is the barrier to their success. It's not the knowledge of, what to do. It's what is preventing you, and you can only really get to that through trust and relationship, because then you can have influence in someone's life. And if you don't have that, they don't care what you know.
Well, you had probably a different kind of approach than what a trainer does have. So to call yourself a strength coach, strength can refer to
many different things.
Yeah, many different things. And in the process of, I'll still use the word training, people, but then also coaching them, you developed another skill set that will be really helpful in your new career. And that, I think, is, as you said, looking at a situation, looking at what is required for somebody to overcome, a certain limitation. But this kind of very personal interest in people and in structures and communities, and you're going to use that to great effect in your new position.
Yes, and as you know, the work that I've done in communication.
Yes,
that was something, born out of a real difficult time, and then later grown, with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Russell will be joining our law office, yes. And he's going to work as a special advisor to me as the owner of the firm. But I'm just really looking forward to it because the communication, which you just mentioned, the ability to communicate and to work with others in developing their communication abilities is really a very key to your new position.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be a great time and experience for the law firm because it's going to be able to move, I believe, to the next level that we really want it to move to. And it's going to be a really fun and challenging next year or two or forever,
Yeah. Yeah. For the listener, if you're moving on to something or trying something and it doesn't scare you a little bit, it's probably not big enough. And I take that and I say, okay, yeah, that means I'm reaching for something that is outside of my reach right now. And that is exciting to me, and if it's comfortable, then I'm not really moving myself, enough to challenge myself.
Yeah.
So,
well, there was a great poet whose line was, "A man's reach should exceed his grasp," or "What's a heaven for?" So, you've got to just push yourself, more than is within the comfort level.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'm very excited, and maybe there'll be an episode to reflect on, what's happened. But right now, let's get back to the point of this episode, and we have again with us our superstar in the background, Tori. Oh, I don't think you hear her voice in the intro or outro. You hear her name, but not her voice. So Tori's here with us again, and she's going to give us her insight into these episodes. So let's get to it. So we left off 1 through 20. We're on number 21. And episode 21 is Susana Porras. Susana Porras works for the city of Pasadena, but her story, which stood out to me, was this journey that she went on with her father at age 70, hiking through Spain. Yeah,
it was quite an undertaking because I think it was about a 2 to 3 month venture, and just to have the power and strength and drive to do that in itself is great. But what was really, to me, really incredible is that every night she wrote a sonnet about what happened during the day, and she collected them in a book. It was an incredible undertaking on her part to write a sonnet, and I read through her book, and they were beautiful and meaningful, and she wasn't just writing nonsense. I mean, she wrote really meaningful, beautiful sonnets.
Yeah,
I liked reading her book. I don't really read poems, so it was interesting read for me. But also something that stood out in her story was getting the community to do that, like a community watch.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's right. In her home neighborhood here in Pasadena,
yeah.
She is a real activist.
Sure. And I think, she wrote those never with the intention to write a book, but just to document her journey with her father.
Yes.
I think it was the El Camino, 500 miles or something, right, in Spain.
Yeah.
Excellent episode if you're interested in that.
It was a very heartwarming story. And
yes.
And she's a very dynamic and heartwarming person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Episode 21, Susana Porras. So moving on, episode 22. This was someone from the San Gabriel Chamber of Commerce.
This was Alexis
Yes.
Salamanca, who at one time was president. He's not now, but he's been a very influential and very important part of the chamber for a number of years, working with Sandy, who's the executive director. That's Sandy Roscoe. So Alexis grew up in South America and moved here as an adult, moved to the U.S. And so he's one of many of our guests who, had this foreign upbringing and had to adjust and adapt when he moved here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's also a graphic designer. And so one of the things I found interesting was when he's with clients, he'll actually draw it on a piece of paper instead of like an iPad or something. He says that it's easier to go back and redo it according to the client's wants rather than if he did on a computer.
Oh, wow.
He's very creative. I myself have known him for several years, and I just find him to be an incredibly creative mind.
What stands out to me about his episode was his SGV3. When he finished the first one, and we're like, wow, how is he going to top that one with the next two? Do you remember?
Was it the mission?
It was something involving his faith and his wife saying, have you asked God? And he's like, no, I haven't. So he prayed, and I don't want to give it away right here, but
yeah, I don't remember exactly, but go back and listen to it.
yeah, that was a really interesting SGV3. He had 3 unique stories to tie into the SGV3 that were different from every other guest. So that's episode 22. Episode 23, Scott Warmuth.
Oh, that was number 3.
Yes, number 3.
Oh, that's cool. Was that about L.A. and
Yes.
building the law firm?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That I wish I could go back and listen to it, but I just find it very difficult to listen to myself. But
You were ahead of me because we ran the contest. So, being competitive, I was like, oh, I gotta have higher numbers than Scott. And then I think I overtook you.
oh, in number of downloads?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But that,
I had 3 of them.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So total, you're probably still ahead. But yeah, so we talked last time in episode 41 of your previous 2 episodes. So this is the conclusion, catching you up from after law school and into your professional life, building the law firm. And I think you did your SGV3 here in
In this
episode
one?
3. Yeah.
Wow, I can't even remember what they were, but they were probably the Rose Bowl, Old Town, which is really Old Pasadena, and the mountains.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember that episode?
Yeah.
Is SGV3. Well, I have to, now we can cut out this clip from this episode and send it to Terry.
Oh, yeah. He'll get on me. Was Terry our next guest?
No. The next
okay.
one, so that was episode 23, part 3 for Scott. Episode 24 is my episode, my first one.
And how did you feel about it?
I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I got a lot of good comments from people that listened to it and, were impressed with the things that you had gone through in your life.
What I got from people was the authenticity of our show.
Oh, okay.
That it was really, that they can feel that it's very genuine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was to you at the time,
Sure.
Going through that show, because you had to sort of open up about things that aren't always comfortable.
Yeah. I think I'm okay because I think people draw strength, from my vulnerability in those areas, and it does nothing to me to share them.
Yeah.
I would say I fully healed from that, so I can share without bringing up any difficult feelings.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Do you remember those episodes?
Yeah, I remember them. Is where I learned more about you than just from previous conversations that we've had.
Okay. Just to touch on, because one of the pastors at H-Rock here this Sunday, he was telling a story of him coming to his father, asking for forgiveness for the bitterness that he had towards him, for him abusing him, beating him as a child. And he said he went to him twice. And the second time he said, son, this is the second time you're asking that. And he says, I know, but I still feel I have this bitterness within me. And he's asking his dad for forgiveness for the bitterness he has. And then his mom comes to him shortly after that and says, you know, son, I'm sorry. I wish I would have been stronger to stop your father. And she's crying. And so his dad finds out. And so he gets a call from his dad. And his dad's like, he thinks that he's going to be in trouble. He's in his 40s now when this conversation is happening. He thinks his dad's going to be upset with him. And he's like, you know, son, you've asked me twice for forgiveness and I've never once asked you for forgiveness. And he asks him, he says, I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? And this was just this Sunday. And he says, as soon as those words were spoken to him, he felt that something had been just broken, just completely released. And, you know, I had that opportunity to hear those words, you know, from my brother. So I know what that's like, you know, to have that someone apologize to you.
It's a powerful thing to ask forgiveness.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Episode 25. Let's see if anybody gets this.
It's his second one.
Yes. Bingo.
Oh, you did 2 in a row.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was more, I think, my professional career, like after, you know, coming back from the Army, starting my career, going to college and entering the workforce. Yeah.
The Army is always an interesting discussion.
Yes. Yeah. That was.
And I remember you talking about the Army and your experience in Germany.
Sure. Yeah. Most people they seem very surprised when they learn that I was in the military.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, you wouldn't naturally think of you as a military person.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you feel that way too, Tori?
Yeah.
Yeah. You would be surprised?
Yeah, I would be.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder what that means.
Well, you probably present as more. I think when you think of a soldier, you probably think of like a hardened, you know, person with, you know, just a desire to go out and fight and be in battles, but you probably have more sort of this kind of compassionate side, that a quieter side.
And you know, those were the type of leaders I had in the military.
Yeah, I remember you talking about who you respected the most.
Yeah. Do you remember those episodes, Tori?
Yeah.
Or the second one? Mm-hmm. Did you learn anything different or new rather?
Yeah, I think just your more career life I didn't know much about before.
So that's episode 25. You know, if you're a fan of this show or new listener to this show and you want to know more about who I am as a host, definitely check out episode 24 and 25. And you'll have a different, or I guess a better perspective on who I am. Episode 26. This is probably one of my favorite items brought.
Oh, the Japanese sword.
Yes. Brian Takeda.
Yes, I remember.
So Brian Takeda was episode 26. And does anything stand out to you about that show?
What stands out to me, it was the sword that he brought. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was having fun watching you hold it and watching him hold it and seeing how it changes the feeling in the room when you take it out, and now you have this weapon out that is designed for war and killing. Well,
it's why I think a person holding a gun feels so powerful as well. I mean, it's a weapon for killing. Sure. I mean, that's what it exists for and nothing else.
Yes.
Right? And it brings this sense of power. But what's interesting is a few weeks after that, I guess, I saw another sword, and I think it was a similar sword on display at the California Club. It was the sword that one of the generals of the Japanese army surrendered to the U.S. Yeah, I was just looking for it, but I can't find it. But yeah, it's on display in the California Club downtown.
Yeah, when I heard about the sword, I was disappointed that I couldn't have been at that show.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm.
But it was cool while I was editing to see it come out and him hold it and present it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the sword that's downtown at the California Club is a samurai sword. which was surrendered on October 6, 1945, by a major general from the Japanese army to the U.S. In the city of Beijing.
Well, Brian, the show was not about him being a samurai. It was more about his connection to the Japanese community and what he was doing. And he was collecting images and stories from Japanese Americans in Southern California, so that they wouldn't get lost, the pictures that he had. And he had put it into, I believe, a calendar. And his desire to preserve that was his passion. You can
So
see.
he was a curator of the Japanese history in the Southern California over the past probably 100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his knowledge of what happened to the Japanese communities, why they separated, why they ended up in different pockets, one being in Pasadena.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're interested in that is episode 26, Brian Takeda. Okay, moving on. Episode 27. Okay, here's a clue. This guest has been here twice.
Glenn Evans.
Yes. Bingo. All right. So episode 27 is Glenn Evans, and he is a really animated and great storyteller. He is a director and a videographer. And this episode, he talks about his work with the Discovery Channel, specifically Whale Wars.
Yeah, and how he was stranded on an iceberg in Antarctica.
Yes.
And he didn't know whether he would ever get back alive.
Yeah. There's some really great stories that he has.
Yeah. He was very fascinating, but he lives the life that a lot of people dream of, this international photojournalist, a man of adventure type.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I also liked hearing about his journey in, I think, Hollywood, as just someone who would get the copies or the old film for the producers.
Oh yeah, and his item of significance blew me away. I don't want to give it away here. I was like, wow, you brought this, because it came with the story. Do you remember the story?
Yes, I do remember. Right.
Yeah, so it has to involve with like treasure and ships,
pirates.
Yeah. So definitely, if that's interesting to you, episode 27, Glenn Evans. Okay, moving on. This lady was really funny.
Is this Ada?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ada Gates.
Another person with just a real exciting life to tell about. She was the first, what is she called?
A farrier.
A farrier, yeah. First woman farrier, I think.
Yes.
In
horse racing.
And
then at with the Rose Parade.
Yeah. What really interested me was her sort of New York upbringing, where she was actually part of a high society family.
Mm-hmm.
And she grew up with a lot of famous people, and she chose this career that was a little bit offbeat. And I don't remember how her parents reacted to it, but she was definitely a person who, had her own way about her.
Oh, I remember she used a term that I didn't understand, and without missing a beat, she's like, "Oh, you don't know nothing."
Yeah. Well, she has that down to earth New York style too, and even though she's been out here for 50 years, maybe. But after that show, sometime afterwards, you sent me a link where she appeared on the David Letterman show.
Oh yes.
And people who maybe can't go back and listen to this podcast or watch her can look up that Ada Gates, right?
Yes.
Ada Gates on the David Letterman show.
Yeah.
I liked her journey from New York to California, and how I think it was somewhere in Colorado where she just stayed there and her friend went back to New York.
Oh yes. Yeah. Oh, and I remember how she just very nonchalantly said, "Yeah, at 4 years old, I asked my mom for a pony, and I got one, and our house had 28 rooms." And she just was speaking at that was normal, and I was,
oh yeah,
that it was funny because it wasn't meant to be comical, but to me it was.
Yeah, that was a very interesting show, and You said that's Thomas's third favorite show.
Yes, it is.
And we should have Thomas as a guest. We talk about him more than we talk about our guests.
So, Ada Gates, episode 28. Okay, next one. Oh, okay, here's a clue. His personality is synonymous with online search engine, Google.
He knows everything.
Michaelatrice.
Oh, yeah, Michaelatrice. He knows. Well, we learned so many fascinating things about Echo Mountain and local Pasadena history. And we went, both of us separately, we went to his museum that he is a private museum, really. It's not even at this point open to the public. But just he as a collector and just had so much information.
He's also the founder of the Mount Lowe Preservation Society.
And what he knew about Lowe was just so interesting, that Lowe was the first aerial reconnaissance person in the U.S. Army, I think, during the Civil War, actually. And stayed overnight in the White House,
Were you here for his episode? I think so.
I think so, yeah.
You could just say a sentence and he would go, maybe he could go for an hour, I think, without stopping, without even having a break. But it wasn't rambling. It was really just information just kept coming out and coming out and coming out.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, Michaelatrice.
Episode 29. Yeah. Actually, that was, I think, one of my favorite episodes. Mm-hmm. Just the history of this area and the places that I know.
Right. Yeah. Incredible.
Okay. Episode 30. It had to do it was a Russian art piece. This was their item of significance.
That's Glenn again.
Yeah. Glenn part 2. Glenn Davis part 2.
Yes. Oh, Glenn Evans.
I'm sorry. Glenn Evans part 2.
So he has been gone. He was in Fiji for several months. He came back temporarily and he's gone again.
Oh, is he out shooting again?
Yeah. So I follow him on Instagram. And so that was part of the reason we grabbed him when we could. Because, we knew he would be around. Because
he had been shut down for about a year because what he does, they weren't needing during the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. So we got him when we could. We got 2 episodes from him. He still brought a lot of energy, a lot of tremendous stories still from his work and his travel. Mm-hmm. He shot an episode that airs on the History Channel every Easter about the Shroud of Turin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. He told that story too.
And he brought an item that he had recovered from Russia, a painting of St. Nicholas. Mm. Yeah.
Yes. I remember that.
Yeah. That definitely stood out to me was the painting. And my older sister, she's an art history major. So then I told her about that. And so she told me, when the show comes out, make sure I see that part. Okay.
Did she?
Yeah.
Okay. Did she like it, the picture? And he also mentioned something about the Amber Room. I don't really remember that.
I believe that was in Leningrad, Russia.
Somewhere in Russia.
Yeah.
But it was destroyed or they can't find it or something.
Yeah,
which is Leningrad.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so he's he has a lot of energy, he's a great storyteller.
Yes. Yeah, he is.
So that was episode 30. Episode 31, it's a female.
Was it Michelle?
No. How do I give a clue to this? She would have preferred not to be on video.
Jean. Jean works at our law office. Yes. And she came from Texas and she was on video, but she's a very good speaker and talked about a lot of good things.
Sure. And her experience coming through as a professional in Texas.
Yes.
And her experiences.
Yeah. And I remember how you were really interested in hearing that, how she was addressed by some even judges as a woman lawyer in Texas.
Yeah.
Somewhat sexist, I guess.
Sure.
Jean Power.
Yeah, her time in Texas was interesting to hear about.
Yeah. I think it's the experience of a lot of women, though, perhaps you don't really hear about. Maybe it's just accepted as the norm in many places. But one thing about Jean, this is maybe not about her episode, but what she said to me specifically was that, she's known or worked for other law firms, and she's never worked for a firm like yours before. Speaking of how the people are, how you are, in a very positive way. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's very nice. Well, we're like that because we have people like her.
Sure. And that is Jean Power, episode 31. And she's an employment law attorney.
That's right.
Okay, moving on. Episode 32. I thought this person was extremely nervous when they first started. I could feel that.
It was Michael Tang.
Michael Tang.
Yeah. So I went to high school with Michael. He is a restaurateur. I would say he's an entrepreneur. And he is the owner of Cha Cafe in El Monte. And his story was very similar in terms of the immigrant experience. Parents came here for a better life for their children, growing up in the San Gabriel Valley, trying to carve out, trying to, I think, be accepted in this community and also carve out their own niche in, what they're going to do. And what they did, and I guess a lot of the Cambodian immigrants were involved in, was the donut business. And Michael didn't want to do that. He left for Vegas, bought some property, owned a bar, and lost it all. Yeah,
he then came back, and he followed his own trail, though.
Yeah.
And then opened the Cha
Cafe
eventually, which which has some food that is like of his own creation.
Yes.
He just is doing what he wants to do, and is very successful, isn't he?
Yeah. In the beginning, he called it California comfort food.
Yeah.
And he said people didn't get that. So these were dishes that he grew up with, he created on his own. And so now I guess he refers to it like a Asian Mexican fusion.
Mm-hmm.
So they have things like Korean kalbi tacos and poke nachos, a ramen burger.
I always hate it when we talk about food. Let's head over to Cha Cafe. That's in El Monte?
It is in El Monte. So I think it's on Live Oak, either Live Oak or Lower Azusa. I'm not sure, but it's in El Monte. Cha's, CHA Cafe.
Mm-hmm. My favorite was about being a bar owner in Las Vegas, and is the specific type of the flair bars? Or?
Oh, yes, flair. Oh, he was a flair bartender. I totally forgot about that.
I don't remember what is a flair bartender.
He described it as in cocktails with
Tom Cruise.
What he does.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Flip the bottles and shake it, make it a show.
Oh.
Like spin, flip bottles, like make a show out of making drinks.
Well, the next time you do a podcast about me, we can talk about how I never drink or go to bars. So this is why I'm kind of like stumped by that.
I've actually never seen that in a bar. I've only seen it in that movie, Cocktail. And Tori probably has not.
But it did exist because he did it.
Yes, right? Yes. So check out episode 32, Michael Tang, and check out the restaurant, Cha Cafe. I think maybe that was the first restaurateur that we had, right?
First I can remember, yeah.
And unfortunately, no food came along, but...
I know, but it was like I was tempted to leave and just drive over there.
So if you're listening to this and you're a restaurateur and you want to be on the show, it's okay to bring some food if you like.
Well, actually, your friend earlier, he owns Yogurt Land and...
Marcus.
Marcus, yeah.
Episode 3. No, 5. Okay, moving on. Episode 33, Hood Tang. And Hood is Michael's brother and also has a similar story and upbringing here in the San Gabriel Valley, but sort of a different path from Michael.
He stayed in the donut business, but as I remember from the show, his father kind of forced him to go open a donut restaurant or a donut store in the valley, San Fernando Valley, and it didn't work.
No.
But he came back, and he now creates incredible custom donuts. What's the name of his donut shop?
Tony's Donut House.
Okay.
In Baldwin Park. And in Huntington Park, I think. But the main one's in Baldwin Park.
Yeah. He had some incredible donuts that he brought.
I think you ate like 3 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, but Tori took the rest of them home.
Yeah, it's not just me, it was for my whole family. So. He also, during his struggle with his father, with the creativity in a restaurant business, he wanted to do a noodle shop, and that was like his big thing. But then his dad said to do a donut shop instead.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. Well, if you want to look at those donuts, look at the YouTube video, and it's called Tony's Donut House in Baldwin Park. What really stood out about that episode is not what happened in the episode, but afterwards we got to try the donuts.
Yes.
So he brought the donuts, and he brought, you can't say cronuts because that's something else, but deep fried croissant and his maple bacon donut with the candied
That was your
bacon.
favorite, wasn't it?
Well, I've always enjoyed the thought of that donut, but I never enjoyed one.
Oh, really?
I never enjoyed one. They always sort of fell short. Either the bacon was soggy or there wasn't enough bacon. This was just piled high with bacon.
Oh, wow.
So if you like donuts and you like bacon, go there. Tony's Donut House. He said he doesn't make any profit on that donut. It's just a novelty to bring, people
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So anyways, that is episode 33, Hood Tang. So we got 7 more to go, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
The legal process can be intimidating. You don't know where to start and you're unsure of what to expect. The attorneys and staff at the law offices of Scott Warmuth have been serving the San Gabriel Valley for over 35 years, helping people just like you navigate through the legal process and ensuring you're treated fairly. You can find them at law888.com or call 626-282-6868. That's 626-282-6868.
All right, welcome back. Back on the episode countdown review. We are on episode 34.
Mayor Terry Tornek.
Yes. Did you look at the phone?
No, I've just been waiting, and it was a guess.
Okay.
But the reason I said him was because we had talked about Old Pasadena earlier, and I said Old Town. And the most memorable thing during his show was when you got reprimanded for saying Old Town.
Yes.
So Terry Tornek was someone who came out from the East Coast to work for the city of Pasadena in the early 90s and really was very instrumental in developing Old Pasadena during that time. And so he doesn't like people calling it Old Town because it's not Old Town. It's Old Pasadena.
He says Old Town is Monrovia.
Yeah. Any city can have an Old Town, but only Pasadena has Old Pasadena. But I mean, to his credit, Old Pasadena is special. And Old Pasadena has been named by many of our guests as one of their SGV3 favorite places in the valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked hearing about his family tradition of going to Israel every bar mitzvah.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. And if you don't know by the name, Terry Tornek was the former mayor of Pasadena. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, I think last year he served until last year.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. He was very well spoken. I enjoyed the way that he was able to describe his experiences. He spoke in a very, I would say,
commanding way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So episode 34, Terry Tornek. Moving on. This is maybe one of the more touching episodes that we've had.
Michelle,
absolutely.
Yeah. Michelle Kui.
Kui or Kui? Kui.
Kuei.
That's right.
Yes.
So she is an author, a coach, and she had a pretty remarkable story to share here.
Her story really was how her life began. She went through 2 times in her life where she had gone through these life-changing events. One was the auto accident when she was a child that left her crippled.
Right.
And to say that is probably a disservice because, it was something that she built from. But her second big awakening was a I think around 4 or 5 years ago, when she just discovered that she needs to take a certain ownership or responsibility for her life. Mm-hmm. She probably felt she wasn't living her life the way she could fully live her life. And she had this awakening.
Right. Probably for the audience, you won't fully understand the impact of the auto accident, but she's, permanently physically changed in her walk and her abilities because of it. And I remember in the show the point when she was, very vulnerable and sharing about her struggles emotionally, mentally with accepting it. And, that was very, very real. You can understand the pain.
Yes.
If you had to endure something like that.
Yeah, it was a very touching story. I like listening to it and hearing her talk.
Yeah, she also climbed Machu Picchu with this condition, which was
right. Well, she became a very inspirational person, and in the same way that Jeff Julian, one of our earlier guests, had identified. I remember you mentioning, 4 characteristics, I think, of what a survivor needs to have. Mm-hmm. And Michelle, she also had, I think, intellectualized some things and, thought it through and really brought her to a special place that was very inspirational.
Yeah, yeah. So episode 35, Michelle Kui. Episode 36, Tori's got to get this.
My mom.
Episode 36, Beth Allers. I think this was, I enjoyed seeing you in this episode.
Oh, is that right?
That's right.
I was completely dumbfounded, by her knowledge, her ability to speak and explain and describe things, and just her depth.
Yeah.
As a person. I probably just sat there wide-eyed listening.
I enjoyed your I'll say transformation perhaps of the idea of homeschooling, what that really meant to hear it from her perspective,
right?
And to be open to that, right? Because I think a lot of people, they have a misconception of what it means to be homeschooled.
I think so. In fact, this podcast is must listening. People should listen to it because, yes, I would say I would raise my children the way she raised her children if I had only known.
Sure.
If I had only known, and people don't know. And
Tori is a product of that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, one of 6.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, if you're listening to this, Tori has a big, gigantic smile on her face. So, what is your take of that show?
It was, I like listening to her. She has told me all of that over the years, but I've never been compacted into one conversation. Mm-hmm. So I liked seeing it all come together. And then also it's kind of, well, for me it's a bit embarrassing, just she's here in my workplace. but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything new about her reasons or perspective on homeschooling?
No. And it's like I said, she's told us her reasons over the years. It's just not really been all compacted into one conversation before.
Yeah.
I really do believe that what she presented in terms of the ideas and the reality of homeschooling, her experience, that is just must listening for everyone.
Sure. Yeah, that is actually, that's probably one of my top 3 episodes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys probably know what my top episode is, but I would say that is one of my top episodes. Yeah. Episode 36, Beth Allers. Moving on. Oh, this was very interesting. All of our guests are interesting, but this gentleman had a very unique perspective on the San Gabriel Valley.
Oh, Jack Feldman.
Yes.
Yes. Former employee at the Department of Water and Power.
Yes.
And now a curator of an online, history of Los Angeles.
Yes.
Photos and
12 years that he's been curating that.
Yeah.
And he's a friend of Thomas.
That's right. I think we mentioned Thomas during his show a few times.
He enjoys it. He enjoys it. I'm sure he does. But so Jack, he had some stories of the development of the LA Basin, water rights. I forget.
Well, he also told us the story of Chinatown, the movie, which is one of my favorite movies, and based in real fact, maybe not exact.
Oh, I think he said 35%.
Okay,
true.
Yeah, right.
And maybe a little history of Mulholland.
Yeah,
the aqueduct coming from up north.
Right.
Yeah, I like the history is interesting, and then also seeing the old pictures online.
Oh,
is
yes.
pretty cool.
Yes, definitely. That's a great episode. You should check out episode 37. And I think there's a link in that episode, right? To go and you can view the museum. So check that out. Episode 38 is Aaron Sanchez. And Aaron Sanchez is born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley, Montebello. And we went to the same high school. And he has his own morning show, The Morning Show with Aaron Sanchez. And that is on ABC News Radio KMET 1490 AM and 98.1 FM. And
he brought his microphone that he has used for years and years to interview, like on the red carpet. He would interview guests celebrities.
Yes.
And he does his show from his bedroom.
Yes. Well, we're smiling, but it's interesting because you can't really tell, and you wouldn't know, right?
Well, the one thing about Aaron that I specifically remember is that I could see his personality change when we started the show.
Really?
Yeah. To me, he was sort of more quiet and withdrawn, but once the show started, he was a performer.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that's the actor in him.
Oh
yeah.
Oh yes, that's right. He was a drama student. We went to the same high school, and I remember. Okay, yeah. So that is episode 38, Aaron Sanchez. And moving on. Oh, this was also one of Thomas's favorites for being entertaining, and he said that he loved the idea that our show welcomed all kinds of guests, from different viewpoints. Personalities.
Oh, this is Teddy.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Teddy, the restaurant owner in Old Pasadena.
Yes. Teddy Bajakian, and he is the owner of Edwin Mills by Equator.
Yes.
So he is someone that you've met, right?
I see him a lot because we go to the same spa, and that's where I met him, actually, at the spa. Teddy has done an incredible job of making Mills Alley, I think is where he got the name Edwin Mills. That's Mills Alley. And it is now just this vibrant, flourishing outdoor cafe style, European or New York style outdoor cafe with music. And it's just a wonderful experience, and he did that. And remember how he knew so much history of Pasadena and of old Pasadena in particular. So it was a fascinating show.
Yeah, and he has a very strong personality, right? And he's not afraid to say what's on his mind. And I think even he had to tone it down a little bit for our show. So
yeah. Definitely a strong personality. But going back to his knowledge of the history in Old Pasadena I never knew about the plaques on the sides of the buildings about what it used to be when he said it was an old Chinese area.
Yeah. It was a Chinatown area, I think he said.
Yeah.
in an opium den. I never knew that.
Yeah, that's right. In the underground
Tunnels.
Yeah.
So if you want to check out that show, that is episode 39, Teddy Bajakian, and he's the owner of Edwin Mills by Equator in Old Pasadena. Our last one. This is my favorite episode.
Oh, well, yeah, it's your best friend growing up, Danny Wu.
That's right, Danny Wu. Educator, coach, father, husband.
Yeah. Yes, he was a very good. I really enjoyed talking with him too.
It was meaningful, one, because I get to see him, two, to have him here, but three, that undoubtedly you two would have gained different perspective on me because of him and the stories and the dynamic between us. That was also exciting for me.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like who is friends with who, and why. But you and him are not two people I would put together and
Really?
think that you would be friends.
Really?
Yeah, I just two different kinds of personalities, and yeah.
What did you get from that show, Tori?
Yeah, it's very fun to watch and listen just because you two bounce off each other very well. And then also before and after the show about the stories you had when you were younger.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The ones that couldn't make it on the air, on air.
Well, Danny, he has a really powerful story, and I consider myself a coach, and Danny is very much a coach, and you have to listen to the show and hear the really interesting and powerful story of how he learned those skills and where he learned them, and why that is both difficult for him and just you'll have to listen to that show. That is a really interesting.
Yeah, it was a good show.
So.
And it probably moved quite nicely, as Tori said. You bounced off each other, very well.
And Danny is, more than a coach now. He's a new father. He's still an educator, and he's returned to basketball. So I'm excited to see, what the new and improved Danny teams look like.
Yeah, but don't give him a clipboard.
Oh yeah, you have to listen to the show to find out about that. That is episode 40. So, well, that's 21 through 40. I really enjoyed these episodes. It's kind of fun, really fun.
It is fun, but what's really striking about it is how, as we review it, boy, we've had every guest is so interesting. Every show. I mean, we're just so lucky to be able to meet these people and talk with them and just have this experience. Every show has been meaningful.
I am also recognizing right now, as we're looking back, that it has been very enjoyable. We're talking about these guests and we remember these moments, and it's been a lot of fun for me and for us. So that's our show for you. This is episode 42 of the review of episodes 21 through 40. If you want to hear the other review show, that's the one right before this, episode 41. Thank you for listening and taking the time to hear this and our perspectives on these guests. And we're going to have a new guest for you next week, and we're excited to bring that one to you. So please don't forget, send us an email. Leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing, and if you want to be on the show, reach out to us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I hope you're enjoying these shows as much as we are.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the SGV Master Key. You can find the full back catalog of the SGV Master Key at sgvmasterkey.com and wherever you get your podcasts. This show was produced and edited by Russell Mono and Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. Thanks again for listening or watching. We'll see you again real soon in the next episode.
Nice mother. No, kind mother.